I'm going to be interviewing Archangel Michael this evening. Someone actually sent me a link to his YouTube channel. From there, I got to watching some of his videos and learning a little bit about his research and information. And he is the author of the Book of Life, which an excerpt of which can be read at his webpage, which I've included in the show description. So just look there and you will be able to find that. And without further ado, let me go to our guest here. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Gary. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for being on the show this evening. Sorry about the time delay there. I had to reschedule the show for an hour later than I had initially planned. But, yeah, it's great to be speaking with you this evening.
Thanks for having me, Gary. It's good to be with you, and thanks to the radio for hooking us up.
All right, excellent. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about the information. I mean, I have a few questions that I would have to ask you, but if you would just, I guess, give a general introduction to your work, what inspired you to write the Book of Life and start doing YouTube videos and all that.
Okay, the Book of Life, actually, I didn't sit down to write the Book of Life. I just sat down to write some things that I had found out and didn't sit well with me and that I thought the public should know. In the course of writing what I felt the public should know, it seemed to take a turn or a life of its own, and I started figuring out more things and more things and more things. And before the work was complete, the title came up as the Book of Life, and I realized at that point that I had a call to bring death to an end within the human species.
Interesting. So you just kind of started out, you felt compelled to I guess, expose what you felt was really going on in the world to the public, and became aware of more, I guess, in-depth process going on. Is that correct?
Well, yeah. Let me give you a little bit about myself, first of all. I was around 10 or 11 when I was staying on the corner with a couple of friends, and there was a guy in the church that had died. He was a Baker League basketball player. They say he had a stroke while he was playing basketball, and he died. So the guy's body was in the church. And so I told my friends, I said, listen, I'm going to go in there and take a look at him. So, they stood out in the corner. I walked in the church and went up to the casket and took a look at him. So when I came back out, I told him, I said, listen, man, they saying everybody's got to end up like that. And so this is pretty much the predominant thought, that everybody's going to end up dead in this box where, the guy was in. And so when I looked at him, I knew that something was wrong here. This guy did something. I don't know what he did. That's what I told my friends. I don't know what he did. But whatever he did, I'm not going to do it if I find out whatever it was. And I was about 10 or 11 years old, and it would be another 36 years, 37 years before I would actually write this Book of Life. But during the course of those years, I studied this and I studied that. I heard you speak about Carlos Castaneda. I read that. I read Paramahansa Yogananda with Babaji and the Bible and the Quran and all. I just bounced back and forth trying to make some sense out of why we were even here. Because it didn't make sense to me that people were here to work and then die. That's the life of a slave. So I was 50 years old, and I sit down with myself, and I said, now, Michael, you done looked at life. You done looked at life from all angles. What have you come up with? So I saw a lot of hypocrites, a lot of hypocrisy. And so I knew that these people are not who I should be following if I wanted to live. Because like I said, when I was a kid, I knew that death was something that had that, it was a cause to it. It wasn't just something that had to happen. You had to do something to lose this gift of life. It was just a matter of me finding out what that was. In intellectual circles, eternal life is called the Great Quest. It's mandatory reading at places like Harvard, Princeton. You got to know these things because they're looking for certain minds in these schools, because all these schools are working on eternal life. Don't make no mistake about it. They just want to do it on their terms, and you can't stay here on their terms. You have to stay here on nature's terms.
Okay, so I watched quite a few of your YouTube videos since I discovered your channel, and exchanged a few messages with you on there about having you on the show. And that is one of the things that if anyone out there is checking out this guy's YouTube channel, which is Angel Michael, the letter A, and yeah, you talk about eternal life being something which is a law of nature. Could you explain that more and perhaps address, some people who might say that is a form of transhumanism or would involve some kind of technological alteration of the human body. Could you touch on that, please?
Oh, okay. Eternal life doesn't require a technological alteration of the human body. Nature gave you eternal life from birth. What you have to do is lose that gift. See, and that's how you end up dead. However, we're not taught that as children, that, we have the gift of eternal life. We're not taught that. We're taught immediately that we must die. Now, the natural law is this. If you teach your child that it must die, you are the one who must die. Now, people act like they don't understand what I'm saying when I say that, but they'll run around talking about the law of karma, and that's all that is. You must reap what you have sown, but you can only sow in your own field. In other words, you don't reap what somebody else did. You only reap what you have done. You sow in your own field. So once you sow that child, once you have that child, then this natural law automatically attaches that if you teach this child it must die, you are the one who must go. Like I said, that's the law of karma. The same thing is you must reap what you sow. That's the Christian's way of expressing the law of karma, that whatsoever man soweth, that so shall he also reap. So it's not a far-fetched position that I'm putting forth if you understand the law of karma, and everybody claims to understand it, except when the truth comes down and nature puts the protection on the child, because the child comes into this life innocent. It knows absolutely nothing. It's an empty vessel. You decided with all your wisdom, and I say you, not you particularly, but as people, decided with all their wisdom to teach this child that it must die. Well, if you do that, you're the one that has to go. It's just that simple. And they just not playing no games with it, whether you're Caesar, whether you're Cleopatra, or whether you're just an average John Doe. The natural laws apply to all people.
Okay, so when you say eternal life, do you mean in the physical body? I'm assuming that's what you're talking about. Yes,
in the physical body. Now, when you speak about this technological alteration of the human body, we've studied the human body a billion times. Places like Harvard, Harvard was established in this country before America was established. The British brought them over. They was working on it then. So, say take a disease like pediatria. they'll look at the progeria where a child will age 80 years in 8 years, or 10 years, they'll age 80 years physically. Now, what scientists do is look at that and see that the aging process can be sped up. Now, if the aging process can be sped up, it can also be slowed down. So this is the approach that the intellectuals are taking towards trying to obtain eternal life. But the mistake that they're making is they're not including in their equation the natural law. What does nature have to say about this? You can stay here forever. That's not a problem. But you have to stay here within the laws of nature. It's certain things that you can do and certain things you can't do. One thing that's forbidden, besides passing the belief in death to a child, is religion. Religion is forbidden by natural law. Everybody who has ever done it is out of here, on their way. The ancients aren't here because they did the religion. We haven't found a society yet that has not done it. And so their end was all the same. Death, that's the reward for doing religion in this life. And so this is why they worship death. They got the Jesus hanging up on the cross, and he's bleeding and he's dying, and he's telling you to pick up your cross and follow me. So it's not that hard to understand that these people are pushing death, man. And the only reason you get the little life that you do get is because they want to work you for a slave and then toss you into death. That's what you do to slaves, slavery and then death.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, and I guess what comes to my mind when discussing this is that it is true, like, to the extent to which, I personally believe that our thoughts can account for a certain manifestation in reality. You know, obviously, you could call that the law of attraction. I think that there's a lot of New Age, woo-woo that's thrown in there along with basic stuff that can be understood in that regard. But when you have a whole culture of death and everyone telling their children that you have to die and, all the sickness around you, it's almost like if you could manifest your own reality and just by the power of your own will, I guess, obtain some kind of what we would think of as longevity or immortality, I guess, but you'd be constantly being reminded that you have to die by all these other people that have accepted that belief. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah, it makes all the sense in the world. That's exactly how they get people dead. They need to reinforce this death. They need to, first of all, they need to get your parents to pass it to you, especially your mother. She was the key to slavery since slavery began, was the female. You bring your soldiers out on the battlefield, and we bring our soldiers out on the battlefield, and then whoever kills the most soldiers off, they go back and get the females. They get the booty. They make slaves out of them. Now, the thing is that you need to get the female to pass the belief in death to the child, because that's when it will stick. The child will listen to his mother. Now, once the mother passes this belief in death to the child, society then reinforces that death by having wars, by just every newspaper you pick up, all they got is the killings in it. Nobody did nothing good today in the world, but there's a whole bunch of killing. Your movies, all your stars, the actors that we look up to, we enjoy, all of them have picked up a gun and showed you that they will kill. All this is reinforcing the belief in death. But in order to avoid death, you must know the natural laws. You must live within the natural laws, and then that kind of stuff doesn't affect you. It doesn't come your way. Because now, see, here it is. This is how nature looks at it. When you accept the belief in God, that God is your protector and all that, and that's what you said, the nature removes its protection from you and lets you get your protection from your God. But it's never there.